Welcome in to the FFPC Insider Access Show right here on the Better Sports Network. Welcome in to Fantasy Football Night in America. It is September 11th, 2025, not 2020. That'd be really bad.
That would be bad.
That would be awful. Yes. I am your host, Eric Balkman, at Eric Balkman on the X. You know me from the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown, of course, the Fantasy Football Players Championship and the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour as well. Being joined tonight by my guest co-host, the man, the myth, the legend, the senior analyst for 4for4 Football. He does data collection and analysis for Pro Football Focus as well, and always banging the table for the offensive line, according to his X profile. He is Justin Edwards at Justin_Redwards on the X. Good evening, my friend. So glad that you are popping aboard tonight, man.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Definitely stoked. We've got a lot of really awesome things to cover tonight. So I'm stoked to chat it up with you.
Why are you banging the table for the offensive line, Justin? Is it just because it's an unheralded aspect of fantasy football? Is that what it is?
I think so. I think it just doesn't get talked about enough. Over at 4for4, I do a weekly O-line matchups column, just kind of comparing my weekly ranks of offensive line against either good or bad defenses to find maybe some offenses we aren't targeting based on whatever, and maybe that's just another data point we can throw on it. I've done a little bit of research on how exactly certain metrics or combinations of O-line metrics can impact or can kind of describe fantasy football output. So I try to push it out there. I don't feel like a lot of people are doing that too often. So I felt like I would pull up the flag for the big guys.
We all have to find our niche, and you clearly have
right.
With that. So obviously you're all set there. If you want to be all set for fantasy football this season, you probably were with the FFPC, the Big Gorilla, the FFPC main event, both of our best ball tournaments, our Super Bracket Terminator. For the first time in quite some time, I mean, it's at least been a half decade, all those reached capacity, which was awesome. So big shout out to all the FFPC players watching tonight. Couldn't have done it without your support. But that doesn't mean that you can't play FFPC new leagues throughout the course of the season. The weekly challenge is back, and it is live now for week 2. There's no draft in this. There's no salary cap. You're just picking 10 players. Whatever 10 players you want to formulate your lineup week to week. You can win up to $2,500. We have 10-team formats, 30-team contests, and 100-team competitions as well. The slant it's just basically like our playoff challenge. You can only pick one player per NFL team. So if you want to pick Jalen Hurts, you can't have Saquon Barkley. If you want to have Daniel Jones, you can't have Michael Pittman. If you want to have Trevor Lawrence, you can't have Brenton Strange. That's basically the slant on it. Sign up now, register now, myffpc.com, myffpc.com. Shout out to our producer, Matt Deutsch, tonight doing the producing, which we really appreciate. And I want to kick things off with the Kansas City Chiefs. By the way, tonight on the show, to get you guys kind of reused to the format that we do during the season, this is basically the fastest growing fantasy football pregame show out there. We're going to do the first segment on the program tonight, kind of catch you up on what happened in week 1, but most importantly, what's going to happen in week 2. Second segment is our Thursday night preview, where Justin and I are going to go back and forth on a lot of the fantasy issues that you're facing with your teams tonight. I know that I'm facing with some of mine, and we'll kind of get those starts and sits hammered out, and that will lead us right into kickoff. And then for the final segment, we're just going to watch the game with you, and we'll tell you what's going on, and we'll answer some start-sit questions for all the other games, and that'll be the show. And then by the time we're done, you're going to have to watch the final 3 quarters by yourself, because we won't be on the air anymore, but that'll be tonight's show. And I want to kick things off tonight with some Xavier Worthy news, and maybe it's not news, but the latest we have regarding Xavier Worthy after his nasty shoulder injury on this past Friday night against the Chiefs. Matt McMullen said that he is going to be practicing in some capacity today. Is Xavier Worthy, and I would imagine it would probably be limited and a step in the right direction, obviously, after not practicing yesterday. If he does get in a full practice, I would say he's going to be all systems go for the Super Bowl rematch against the Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Royals, we know, is not practicing today. He's still dealing with knee tendonitis. So, Justin, this is what we have to talk about here. Number one, if Xavier Worthy is active, do you play him? Are you worried about him being perhaps a decoy or being on any kind of snap count in this game? Because we know how good he can be when he's healthy. And we also know Rashee Rice is not out there. We saw what happened at the end of last season with no Rashee Rice. It was a lot of Xavier Worthy. Now, I would imagine we'll see a lot of it again if he's healthy enough to do it. The question is, if he is active on Sunday, what are we doing with him? Are we just blindly playing him, or is it a more nuanced decision?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not super confident that he's going to be out there in a full capacity. I mean, it's certainly possible. Any of the footage I saw today was him pretty mummified out there, but he was on the field, which is obviously a positive. They're scraping the barrel here, obviously, enough that we are back in the throes of whether or not they're going to trade for Tyreek Hill. If Worthy's out there, I would try to stay away just in week 2. Obviously, they're not trying to start 0-2. They're not trying to get beat up by the Eagles again. So they're probably going to want him out there if they can. But as you said, or as you hinted at, is he going to be a decoy? I think I'd probably move him to like a more of a wide receiver 3 or below, depending on how big my league is. They kind of scrambled in week 1, obviously three snaps into the game, losing the guy that you're trying to build the passing offense around before Rashee Rice comes back isn't the best scenario. We saw Hollywood Brown get 14 targets, even though he had that brutal drop earlier in the game. They still kept feeding him. Juju had his 5 receptions in the middle of the field. Tyquan Thornton had a whole bunch of air yards, the unrealized air yards. He came down with a couple, I think, or maybe 1. So, like, I don't know. Even if Worthy's not out there, are we thinking about starting Tyquan Thornton in a super deep league? I would assume not. Juju Smith has a very capped ceiling. But yeah, I think they probably don't want to be throwing it to Hollywood Brown 15 times a game either. So I think in a roundabout way, my answer is if Worthy's out there, I don't know that I'm forcing him onto teams, but I would feel pretty crappy if I didn't stick him in as a wide receiver 3 and he went for, 80 yards and a touchdown.
The other thing that is problematic about this situation, Justin, it's a 4:25 kickoff, right? So yeah. you got to kind of figure out what you're doing. One of my buddies, always a longtime high stakes player, he always says, if you pay attention to what the reporters, the insiders are saying, so to speak, Sunday morning, sometimes you can kind of get an inkling of where these guys are trending. I have not had that luck. Like, I usually do not find anything that's tipping the scales prior to 1 p.m. At all on Sunday morning. So I think we'll know more what happens in practice tomorrow. And if he gets in a full practice, I feel pretty comfortable starting him. If it's limited again, I don't know. Kind of depends upon your options, and we'll try to help you out as much as we can. Yeah. We already have a question for tonight's game over on Twitch. It's exoticitis. I'm assuming exoticitis. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt or Juju Smith-Schuster. So Krosky-Merritt taking on the Packers tonight. Obviously, we talked about Smith-Schuster going against the Eagles at Arrowhead. I would lean towards Krosky-Merritt here. We'll talk about him more in the next segment. Right. But I feel like the usage, I feel much more comfortable with the usage with Krosky-Merritt. With Smith-Schuster, you're kind of, I don't know. You're
like hoping for 5 and 40, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. And I think that might be best case scenario, unless
Truly,
he gets into the end zone or something. But that's why I say JCM here, Justin.
Yeah, I think I have to agree. And we'll touch on it later. I'm not huge into Bill this week, but I'm more into Bill than messing with Juju, I think.
Yeah. The Denver Broncos, we have to talk about them here. The head coach Sean Payton, after their game, said that he's got to be better there in regards to a question he was asked about running the ball only 3 times against 17 passes in the first quarter. I'm going to repeat that for a second because it's just weird to say out loud. Right. 20 plays for the Denver Broncos in the first quarter on Sunday. 17 of those plays were Bo Nix passes. Only 3 of them were runs. When you have J.K. Dobbins, when you have R.J. Harvey, they decided to pass. Now, the Broncos in that game ultimately ended up beating the Titans. But we have to talk about the backfield here. R.J. Harvey, 6 carries for 70 yards. He had a long of 50. So basically, 5 for 20 and then a busted one. J.K. Dobbins carried the ball 16 times in this game, Justin. He only had 63 yards. In the passing game, he did catch 2 passes for 5 yards. R.J. Harvey had 1 catch for -1 yards. Did we learn anything about this backfield as far as how to treat it for fantasy going forward? I feel like as close as, the closer we got to the start of the season, the less helium Harvey had and the more that Dobbins was, and he wasn't really steaming up, but he was going a little bit higher in draft boards leading up to the start of week 1. And then what do we see here? We see 18 touches for Dobbins. We see 7 for Harvey. Is that what we should expect more going forward?
I would expect it to be I would expect it to be a little closer to an even split, but I mean, something closer to 65-35, not exactly like a 50-50 split. At least not yet. We did obviously, as you mentioned, see that big 50-yard run from RJ Harvey. That was, easily the longest run that they've had in the last 2 years from a main running back. You had Jaleel McLaughlin top out at 21 yards last year. Javonte Williams top out at 20, pretty regular. Javonte Williams stat line over the last few years. I still want to be starting J.K. Dobbins, but I would prefer to have Harvey over the course of the season. I think they're both going to bring more explosiveness to this offense. And kind of going back to the point of the 17 passes in the first quarter, I'm wondering if he was just trying to get Knicks going. Knicks didn't look quite on point to start off the 2025 season. The people that drafted him as like the QB7 or QB6 or whatever. I would expect more Harvey usage between the 20s. I would think that J.K. Dobbins is probably going to continue or start having the goal line roll when they're consistently within the 5-yard line. But that he could lose that too. We all know that Dobbins is the injury prone guy. He's missed plenty of games over the last forever since he's been in the NFL. I think I would have both in like the RB3 range for now. And I think Harvey's probably someone that we want in the second half of the season. And we might just have to have him ride the bench now, especially in more shallow leagues. We don't want to be shoving him in like 10-man leagues, 10-team leagues.
It's a real tough situation because Harvey, I think I'm with you. I think Harvey's the guy that carries you to the promised land.
Yeah.
The problem is Dobbins is the guy that gets you into the position where you can actually see the promised land.
Right.
And you don't want to draft both of them. Obviously, you don't want to have both of them on your team. Unless you're playing in like a closed 12-team league, then I think it makes a little bit more sense. As far as this week goes, I'm a little bit more bullish on J.K. Dobbins than you are, but not much. I think Harvey is a guy that in a pinch, I guess I could flex him out, but I wouldn't like him as like a grade A top choice for my flex on week 2 when there's no buys, right? In a pinch, then okay, maybe I'd play him, but I wouldn't want to. I'd want to look elsewhere. Dobbins, I actually feel okay starting as a flex and maybe a back end top 25 running back this week. It's close,
sure.
But that's how I'd handle it as they are on the road in Indianapolis to take on the vaunted Colts, who just absolutely destroyed the Miami Dolphins this past week. What do we have anything in the? We'll get to the Dolphins in a little bit because I want to pick your brain on that team and Tyreek Hill going forward because it's not a really good situation at all. The Seattle Seahawks had an interesting, maybe not interesting split, depending upon what you were expecting to see from Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker. Charbonnet, 12 carries, 47 yards. He gets into the end zone. Kenneth Walker, 10 carries for 20 yards. No catches, no targets even for Charbonnet. Kenneth Walker ends up getting 3 catches for 4 yards in a 17-13 loss to the San Francisco 49ers. As we got closer to the end of drafting season, Justin, I did notice that a lot of the people that were saying that Kenneth Walker, a lot of the high-stakes players that were saying Kenneth Walker is actually the guy that you want this year. He's going to crush it. They got Kubiak in there now. They got Grubb out of there. It's going to be a big Kenneth Walker season. I feel like sort of like the second week of August, a lot of those people turned into like, you know what? It might actually be Charbonnet. We still like the Seattle Seahawks running game, but Charbonnet might be the guy to own there. And clearly what we saw here week 1, technically Walker had more touches than Charbonnet did in this game. Charbonnet, again, without a target, but Charbonnet definitely the more productive out of the two. Charbonnet and Walker go to Pittsburgh this week, who did not look like the Steelers defense that I was associated with against the New York Jets this past weekend in week number 1. You got Charbonnet and Walker there. Can we still feel okay about plugging Kenneth Walker in? Because a lot of people draft him as a second running back. And even if you don't like starting him as your second running back, you could still flex him out. Is that still smart given what we saw out of this backfield last week?
Whether it's smart or not, I'm still doing it. But but it is worrisome for sure. Walker finished 2024, 11th in snap rate, 6th in rush attempt share, and 14th in route participation. In week 1, he was 38th, 32nd, and 33rd. So very, very worrisome numbers. Obviously, this is much more of a 50-50 split than we were figuring it would be. I'm still plugging Walker in. Maybe it's just sticking with my priors here, but I did take a lot of Walker. I thought there would be Charbonnet, or I knew there would be Charbonnet games, but man, maybe not like this. And yeah, I mean, we would expect the Steelers to be quite a handful as a rush defense in general, but I mean, the Jets had a pretty good time running against them last week. I'm still probably forcing Walker into my lineups and convincing myself that it was maybe a fluke of a week. It is only one data point. It's only 1 week, right? But, we'll see. They have an 18.3 projected team total this week. They scored 13 points last week against the 49ers defense. So they do have a pretty difficult run out of defenses, presumably, to start the season. They get the Saints next week. So maybe if Walker is kind of leapfrogged again in week 2, I can still convince myself that by week 3 and with New Orleans, he'll climb back to the top. But yeah, I'm still starting Walker, but I do not feel as good as I was expecting to feel after week 1.
You know what's going to happen now that you bring up the Saints game in week 3? What's going to happen is we're going to see Kenneth Walker take a backseat to Charbonnet as far as efficiency goes this game, and we'll all be ready to start Charbonnet next week. But then the Seahawks will get out to this 10, 13, 14-point lead and just grind it out with Kenneth Walker. Right. And then we won't know what the hell to do in week 4. That's just fantasy football in a nutshell. That's how it goes. Let's go to some questions we have on YouTube right now. William Brown is first up. He is in an FFPC dynasty league, so tight end premium scoring on this one. Which side would you rather have in a vacuum here? Is it going to be the Omarion Hampton, Terrence Ferguson side, or is it going to be the Tyler Warren and Braylon Allen side? You can only have one. Which one is getting the better end of this trade, Justin, once again, in a vacuum?
I think I would rather have the Warren and Braylon Allen, to be honest. I think Warren might be the most significant piece of this puzzle. And even if I'm taking the drop in obvious drop from Hampton, Braylon Allen, I still think I'm probably sticking with the Warren side.
What initially I thought I'd rather have Hampton and Ferguson because of the draft pedigree for Hampton, first round pick. Obviously, in a running offense. And then Ferguson, a guy who's probably the heir apparent, would have been a first-round pick with the Rams this year had they not taken him in the second round. They took him in the second round because they traded to let the Falcons back into the first round. Otherwise, Ferguson would have been a first-round pick. Initially, I thought that. But then if I look at this a little bit further, even when Najee Harris was dealing with this superficial eye injury, which turned out to be super superficial, right. the response we got from Greg Roman was that Hampton was always going to rotate with somebody there. So I don't know if this will ever technically be his quote unquote backfield. I think that he may always just be a 1A at best and never just a 1. And Ferguson, he could turn out to be something, but that Sean McVay offense, God, those top 2 receivers get so many targets and the running backs and tight ends kind of get scraps. Whereas you look at Tyler Warren, I mean, this guy already looks like a top 5 tight end in fantasy after one game and everything we saw in preseason. We have seen Tyler Warren shoot up draft boards where he was like, drafted 12th or 13th back in June, and now he was coming off the board at the 5th tight end off the board, the 6th tight end off the board. And obviously the careers for tight ends, for studs, especially ones as pedigreed as Warren is, they're a lot longer than Hampton. Right. Braylon Allen is interesting because I know he steamed up quite a bit, and we saw a lot of efficiency from Breece Hall in this last game. I don't know how long Breece Hall is for New York, and Braylon Allen could maybe not be like the most dynamic starting running back, but there could be something there. I think when it comes down to it, in a tight end premium format like the FFPC, the scales tip to me a little bit more with Warren over Hampton, and that's why I'm going to agree with you here. I think the Warren Allen side is the one I'd want.
I would argue that Ferguson might not have Stafford for long, but we also have no idea what the quarterback situation in Indianapolis is going to look like.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Ice cold OG Jones. This is another Bill Merritt question. He's got one of these players in the flex. It's got to be Quinshon, or I'm assuming Quentin Johnson, or is it Quinshon? No, that's Judkins.
It's got to be Johnston.
Quentin Johnston, Bill Merritt, Khalil Shakir, Jaden Reed. You can only start one of those. I can't make an argument to start Quentin Johnston over any of those guys. So he's the first guy I bench. Jaden Reed looked really good out there in week 1, but at the same time, like, he wasn't out there a ton. The Packers are still rotating through the receivers quite a bit. And so it comes down to Merritt or Shakir for me. Justin, I don't know if you can tip me in the correct direction if it comes down to those two.
I mean, I feel like I'm going Shakir here. I mean, we could look at the week 1 numbers from Buffalo, but they had they run like 80 offensive plays. That's not going to happen every week, which is kind of another reason why I do love that Keon Coleman had a week last week, but it's kind of like how many times are they going to run 80 plays? I'm probably going for Shakir for the floor. Not that Bill doesn't have a floor, but I don't know. I mean, any given game, Shakir could have like 11 targets. They're only going to go for 65 yards, but
yeah, and he had 6 for 64 this past week.
Yeah, right.
To your point. I mean, I don't think you need to get crazy here. I think that Merritt would obviously have more of the upside, more exciting player to start. He is the more fun click, as the kids say, but I think the smart play here is Khalil Shakir. I don't know if you saw this, Justin, but the bidding in the FFPC last night in the first in-season waiver wire of the year, it was crazy. We saw Jauan Johnson, I believe it was Jauan Johnson, go for maybe it was Quentin Johnston, went for $998. But we also saw out of 1,000, yeah. But we also saw some crazy. I do too. It's fantastic. We also saw some crazy bidding on Jauan Johnson, who was out there in a lot of leagues. And Three Wolves wants to know how much fab was too much fab to spend on Jauan Johnson. And I always answer these questions like, it kind of depends upon your roster. If you had Trey McBride and Colston Loveland as your top 2 tight ends, then yeah, I think you put in like $150, $170, keep him on his bid, and you move on. But if you waited on tight end and you had like Hunter Henry and Mason Taylor and Jauan Johnson's out there, then yeah, I think it makes sense for you to go for a few $700 to pick him up. 8 catches, if I remember correctly, for Jauan Johnson in week 1.
He ran the most routes at the position.
Yeah, which this is a guy that has battled a lot of stuff over the years, especially injuries, but he's healthy now. He looked good. And I think like he's not going to get 8 catches a game, but as far as how his usage went and how efficient he can be, I think this is real. This is believable. As long as he's healthy, this guy is going to be flirting with top 15 tight end status every single week. And that means you are in the flex conversation every single week in the FFPC, Justin.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm also notoriously bad about just like, I don't like having fab for the whole season. If I like someone, I just like to go for it. So yeah, if you're talking about your tight ends are K Dotton and whatever else, like, yeah, go get Jauan Johnson, put $400 or $500 on it, whatever, 40-50%.
Right.
Go get it.
Steve G chiming in too. He said Jauan Johnson was just as bad in some places in regards to Quentin Johnston. So he did go high in a lot of spots. I haven't looked at the full report from Fantasy Mojo to see where it all stacked up. But yeah, it was a Jauan Johnson, Quentin Johnston night last night for Fab. A Manster 23 wants to know Kyle Pitts or Jauan Johnson this week. We'll answer this question first. I think it's Pitts, even as involved as Johnson was. I just come back to this press conference that Michael Penix had earlier this past training camp, where he just unprompted opened up a press conference, said, you guys see we threw to KP a lot today? There's going to be a lot of that this year. And he backed it up week 1. And with all apologies to Jauan Johnson, I do believe the athleticism and the talent is a little bit better, a little bit higher than Kyle Pitts. I think the offense in Atlanta, I'm much more excited about than the offense in New Orleans. So I give the edge to Kyle Pitts this week over Jauan Johnson, Justin.
Yeah, big agree. And there's questions about Drake and Mooney this week, which I think Drake's already been cleared if I'm not mistaken.
I wouldn't say he's been cleared, but he's definitely trending in the right direction.
Yeah, and then Mooney's been out there but limited, if I'm not mistaken. So I mean, Pitts could once again be the number 2 pass catcher, and it sometimes it takes tight ends a while.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not burying Pitts yet.
Yeah,
He's back.
And wasn't he a younger player when he came into the NFL? Yeah, dude.
Yeah, he's like 25.
He turns 25 in about a month, which is crazy.
He's a kid.
That whole Falcons core, I'm just looking at this. Penix is 25, London's 24, Bijan Robinson is 23. They got a good young nucleus of offensive talent for sure in Atlanta. Second part of a Manster's question. He's got to start 2 of these: Calvin Ridley, Deebo Samuel, Chris Olave, Michael Pittman, and Hollywood Brown. I would say that's a good problem to have, but that's a good problem to have when you have bye weeks. It is not a good problem to have when you have to figure this out on a week-to-week basis when there are no buys and all these guys are healthy. So just to go over this, you got Deebo Samuel tonight, obviously, in Green Bay. You have Hollywood Brown taking on the Eagles. That's on Sunday. Olave is at home against the Niners. And who am I forgetting? Michael Pittman and Calvin Ridley. Or did I already say Ridley? Ridley at home against the Rams. And then Michael Pittman is against the Denver Broncos. I would eliminate Pittman right away from the defensive matchup that not only he has, but the Colts offense in general has. I would avoid him. Ridley, it doesn't seem like he and Cam Ward are totally on the same page yet. A lot of targets, not a lot of connections last week, and they get another tough matchup in the Rams defense this week. So I would probably be benching both Ridley and Pittman. And then I got to eliminate one more. I don't know. Like, it's really, really difficult to eliminate Hollywood Brown when we know the potential for all those targets if Worthy misses.
Is that the latest game on this?
I believe so.
5?
Yeah. Unless it's no, because that one starts earlier. Yeah, that is the latest game. That
stinks. That makes it more difficult.
Very difficult. So I guess if I have to pick 2, I'm probably going Brown and Samuel. I guess it's close.
Deebo was my first pick.
Yeah.
I agree. Unless maybe tomorrow Xavier Worthy's out there, full participant. They're like, wow, it wasn't even anything. He's going to be out there. Maybe you start to think about it, but I still think I like Hollywood.
It's just. Those targets are just maybe it's because it was a one-off game and I watched it, and it's just fresh in my mind where
it was an island. It
was an island game. Yeah. Just a Brown, more Brown. And this is with Kelsey in there too, as well. So let's see what else I want to get to here on with the YouTube chats is, by the way, keep them coming tonight, guys. This has been really good so far. Dylan Fink, let's do his. Dylan Fink has Tucker Kraft tonight against the Commanders or Juwan Johnson against the Niners. He's already playing Daniels and Krosky Merritt tonight, and he doesn't know if he wants to play 3 players from the same team against that defense on Thursday Night Football. Not always the best way to do it. In this case, I think I would. It's not like, or excuse me, not 3 players in the same team in the same game. In this case, Kraft is not on the Packers, or is not on the Commanders. He's on the Packers. So I would have no problem starting Kraft over Johnson. I like Kraft quite a bit this week. So yeah, I'm sitting Johnson there and I'm playing Kraft.
Yeah, you're starting you're doing a little DFS bring back on your own redraft team.
Right, exactly.
Just hope for the game to go over 50 or something. You're set.
Let's go to Billy on X. I'm assuming we should just probably rank these guys because I can't believe he's considering sitting Chase Brown or Bucky Irving. I would rank those 2 as must plays, Brown and Bucky Irving. If you can only pick one, I guess I would play Brown. I actually rank them in that order, Justin. Brown, Irving, Krosky Merritt, and then Sampson, right?
Same. I mean, it's awesome to see Dylan Sampson come down with 8 freaking catches in his first game. Quinshon Judkins could easily play this week. It's still the Browns. Are we going to bank on him catching 8 balls every week? Yeah, I think it's probably in this order, and the first 2 are like not even a question.
Not debatable. They're not debatable. ML chiming in on YouTube with the Juwan Johnson knowledge. The most anybody spent on him in the FFPC main event, 969.
Oh man, I love it.
Out of a possible 1,000.
Absolutely love it.
The median was actually 420, and nobody got him for cheaper than $150 last night.
Wow. Okay.
So and this, I'm assuming ML's getting this from FantasyMojo.com, which is a great website as far as FFPC stuff goes as well. Untame, I'm going to guess on this one, or Untaim, I'm not sure. Baker Mayfield or Drake May this week. I was kind of down on Mayfield coming into this year, Justin, not necessarily because of anything Mayfield did, but third different coordinator. I saw in 3 years, I saw some regression in the mean coming. I didn't know how good Agbuka was going to be. I knew Godwin was hurt. I knew Evans barely got his 1,000 yards last year. So I've been kind of down on him. Drake May at Miami, Baker Mayfield at Houston. I think this comes down to how you feel about the matchup. We know the matchup is great for Drake May, but is that good enough for you to sit Mayfield against, what should be a much tougher matchup going to Houston? I lean towards May, but I could definitely be sold on Mayfield here.
Yeah, I was low on Mayfield coming in and high on May, and week 1 humbled me quite well. But yeah, I mean, Mayfield's ending stat line from week 1 looked good, just in raw fantasy points, but he had 4 turnover worthy plays that were not intercepted per PFF's numbers. He had like a 52% completion rate. He didn't look that great. And then, May could, I mean, if Daniel Jones can do it, why can't Drake May do it? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
May runs just as much as Daniel Jones does too. So there's a built-in rushing floor here.
I think that, I don't know. I could end up playing Mayfield and just being really upset watching him, get into like this pitcher's duel with the Texans going back and forth. Well, May's already got 3 touchdowns in the second quarter or something like that. So I'm going to go.
The Texans looked terrible last week too.
Yeah, that's true.
Just about as bad as the Dolphins did.
Right. Yes. Yeah, they were not good. Let's see here. Untame has another one, tight end. Tyler Warren or Tucker Kraft, open and close here for me. I'm going Tyler Warren all the way.
Yeah, that's fair. And also another good problem to have, honestly.
Yeah. Well, in FFPC, I would just be playing both those guys for sure. That's right. Kraft and one of my flex
Smash
spots.
Them both in.
Exactly. Gary, Slarm 28, Jacory Krosky Merritt or RJ Harvey. This is PPR. I think I lean towards Krosky Merritt here, but maybe I'm just hating on Harvey a little bit too much.
It's close for me. I would probably just stick Harvey in even after us talking about all that. I don't know that it's gonna. I mean, Bill's line today is like 40 yards or something. Not that he can't just beat a betting line, but
right.
Yeah, I think I'd rather have Harvey, but
you have Harvey at Indianapolis, Krosky Merritt at in Green Bay tonight. You're right. It's close. I just feel like, I don't know. I say the big playability gives Krosky Merritt the edge, but Harvey busted off a 50-yard run last week. So
it's so hard. It's so hard to say when it's just one play. It's like,
right.
We don't want to discount 50 yards because 50 yards is quite nice, but also it was just one play. So it's like, how do you reconcile?
ML is saying Harvey there. He's with you on that, saying Harvey should be the choice over Jacory Krosky Merritt there as well. Three Wolves, I'd love to answer your question. It's way too involved where you are asking us to pick 4 out of 9. It's just not gonna be for good internet streaming tonight.
Come back to us.
If you can narrow it down a little bit more, we will try to answer it as best we can. We've been talking a lot of backfields in the first segment. I want to talk about the Chicago one here with you, Justin, because we had a situation this past week where DeAndre Swift, the guy who is like, I can't remember what I called him, like the Houdini or the zombie, like the guy that just he avoids, or the minesweeper. That's what I called him. He's the minesweeper because he avoided the mines in free agency. He avoided the mines in the draft and was hit just a little bit with 7th round Kyle Monangai, but he looked very good. I should say he looked very good, but he got a lot of touches and he was efficient enough with them where I think it worked out if he started him as a flex. Courtney Cronin, who covers the Chicago Bears, I believe for ESPN, quoted Ben Johnson as saying that he needs to call more runs and he needs to get Kyle Monangai more carries going forward. Johnson said that the Bears were had less than 20 called run plays against the Vikings, and he wants to increase that number basically so he can get Kyle Monangai on the field a little bit more. DeAndre Swift had 17 run plays, or handed 17 carries. DJ Moore had the other 3 carries. And I don't know if this is just coach speak saying that, like, we got to get Monangai out there more. Roschon Johnson is probably going to be coming back here fairly soon. But as far as the Bears backfield goes, I don't think we had a good answer for it at the end of draft season. One game in, do we still not have a good answer for the guy that you want to be deploying?
Yeah, you still you wanted a little more. The good news, and at least understanding what DeAndre Swift is going to be in this new Ben Johnson Bears offense is, he looks exactly the same as he always has. He had about 2.2 yards created after contact in week 1, which is right in line with the last 2 years of 2.44 and 2.46, which ranked 54th and 52nd out of all qualifying running backs. So he's just been plodding along for the last 2 seasons in both Chicago and Philadelphia. And then, yeah, as you said, Monangai has 9 snaps in the game, despite Roschon Johnson not playing. Maybe Ben Johnson just wanted to validate the fact that DeAndre Swift is the exact same player as he had in Detroit, and now he'll ship him off for a late round pick, or
right,
give someone else a little more run. Some of that inefficiency from DeAndre Swift was the Bears' offensive line, which they've continued to move around the last few years, and it still didn't look exceptional. They had about 0.6 yards created before contact on those 17 runs for DeAndre Swift, which is not great. So you can give Swift a little bit of a pass for kind of looking like himself. Monangai wasn't really like a bursty, explosive guy at Rutgers either. So I don't know if they're going to look for him to be, the change of pace back. He's just going to be another DeAndre Swift. But I think it's still worth at least looking into. There's a history between Swift and Johnson, and Swift is doing the same things he always does. So we should expect another face in the backfield.
I think that at least for this week, Swift and the Bears going to be in the Motor City. I think he's a fine, second running back start. He's a fine flex start.
Yeah.
He's like, we'll see what I got to see.
He's not like droppable just because he didn't.
No, absolutely not.
Tear off a long run or anything.
Right. Yeah, no. And so as far as like starting him goes, I think you start him this week. You definitely keep him on your roster and you see what happens with Monangai going forward. Untam, or maybe it's one time, I don't know, wants to know, you narrowed it down a little bit for us here, Justin. We got to pick 2 of these running backs. And the fact that Derrick Henry and Ollie Gordon are on the same list gives me a little pause. Maybe we shouldn't be answering this. Derrick Henry, James Cook, Kenneth Walker, Ollie Gordon, or Cam Scadaboo. You only have to pick, or you can only pick 2. I go with Cook and Henry here.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question.
Yeah. Aldo Gaviria, I'm going to guess. He has a half PPR question. Normally we only do full PPR on this show, Aldo, but because you're watching us, we'll answer this one. You got to pick 2 of these guys: RJ Harvey, Calvin Ridley, Deebo Samuel, and Hollywood Brown. Start 2 and sit 2. Obviously, we talked a little bit about some of these players already. Harvey in Indianapolis, Deebo in Green Bay. Calvin Ridley is going up against I'm forgetting this one. Calvin Ridley for the Rams. That's right. Yeah. And then Hollywood Brown, obviously, against the Eagles at home on Sunday. You can only pick 2. Half PPR changes it a little bit. I would say I lean toward I feel like we answered a similar question earlier. I think I'm going to say the same 2 guys, Samuel and Hollywood Brown here. Yeah,
same thing. Especially, I mean, if this were a full PPR, it'd be even more.
Yeah,
we know Deebo's going to get those dink and dunk kind of scammy PPR points like he does, which we love. I'm not complaining. Yeah,
scam is always such.
And
people call it like Wan'Dale Robinson was the PPR scam. That's it's always like it's got such a negative connotation for it. Like, why do we like quarterback cheat code, but we hate PPR scam? It's basically the same thing. Like, either they're both bad or they're both good. One can't be one or the other. Okay, let's see. Golden tonight over Ricky Pearsall or Cedric Tillman half-point PPR? I cannot do that, Justin.
No, not at this point. Maybe if we're asking this question in like week 10, maybe it's different. But at this point, no way. He played like 38% of the snaps in week 1.
Mm-hmm.
Pearsall's gonna have like a 42% target share this weekend.
It's and Tillman. I mean, say what you will about Jerry Jeudy. Tillman either holds his own or he's out targeting Jeudy when those guys have been healthy and playing together. So, with as much as the Packers, have different receivers in there, none of those guys ever gets a high enough snap count where I feel like anything more than like a back end flex. And that was proof positive when we saw Detroit last week. I thought there was a chance that Matthew Golden could develop into be that guy that you could count on, and maybe he still will, but I'm not at that point. I'm not at that point right now. Yeah. Let's see. What else do we got here? Untam, another one here. Now full PPR. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Keon Coleman, Matthew Golden, Xavier Worthy, Romeo Doubs. Now, we already talked about Worthy because he's late he's playing late on Sunday. I think we eliminate him. So I'm doing St. Brown here. I don't think I could play Doubs. So I'm going to go with Keon Coleman. I know we talked about how many plays did the Bills run on Sunday night? Like 80.
A lot.
And Coleman put up numbers, but I still think I just want to verify to make sure that they are not playing at the same time. I think they're playing at 1 p.m. on Sunday. Yeah, they are. So I'm going to go with Coleman. I'm going to go with St. Brown here.
Yeah, St. Brown's no question. We just talked about how we're probably not touching Golden. Again, it's another guy. I'm not dropping Matthew Golden, but I'm not playing him anytime soon.
The great thing about all these pass catchers in Green Bay with Kraft and Golden and like if any of these other guys go down, like if Jaden Reed, he's trying to play through a Jones fracture right now.
Right.
If he were to go down, all of a sudden Golden and Kraft look a lot more startable than they did before.
Right. Exactly.
The let's see, Richie Mercado, who to start, Mark Andrews or Dalton Kincaid. I'm kind of out of the Dalton Kincaid business, man.
Okay.
I
thought you were gonna say you're out on Andrews. I'm like, I like Andrews.
Yeah, no, like the Kincaid thing. We're seeing some of the same stuff we saw last year. All those points, all that yardage for Buffalo, and Kincaid just. I mean, I think he scored a touchdown, right? Didn't he get a touchdown in that game?
But that could be any tight end.
Yeah, 4 for 48 otherwise. So it's like
394 yards passing, and he only got 48 of them.
I don't know. I'd have to like really grind the tape to see if the misuse was happening again, as far as the Bills not accentuating his strengths enough. But looking at the box score, it's just like he did not stand out. It's crazy. You look at that. There's 5 guys for Buffalo in that game that had at least 4 catches too. And I don't think Josh Allen, to your point, is going to throw the ball 46 times again this week. So moving on. Let's see here. Let's talk about Quinshon Judkins and the Browns, which we have not done yet. The latest we got on Quinshon Judkins was that he was supposed to be practicing today. Have not seen the practice report today yet, but he did not practice yesterday. Oh, now I'm getting the update right now. He got into full practice today.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen in this backfield in week 2. I can tell you that I in no way, shape, or form am considering starting Judkins this weekend. But the fact that he could be playing in this game, it does change things a little bit as far as Dylan Sampson or maybe Jerome Ford as a flex. I think I would break ties against these Browns running backs with Judkins now practicing, Justin. Break ties against, I should say, the Browns running backs. I'm not sure if that's what I said, but break ties against them, because this not only could be a messy situation when you're trying to guess how many times these guys are going to touch it. It's not like the Browns offensive line is a bunch of world beaters either.
Right. I think Jerome Ford is probably full on drop territory if anyone's still holding on. And then, Dylan Sampson is probably the back end of a flex as well. I would prefer not to. I don't know how desperate anyone is here in week 2, but I'd rather just wait on all of the Browns backfield right now. See what happens this weekend. I don't think we're going to be like missing out on a top 8 running back performance by benching these guys, and just see what comes around. I mean, the risk reward, the risk is like you get like 4 points out of someone, and the reward is you get 13 points out of someone. It's just not enough for me to actually like plug these guys in my lineups, unless, again, if you're in a super deep league or a 14 team league, maybe maybe you have to consider Dylan Sampson. And then, yeah, as you said, I can't imagine him starting Judkins in any league right now.
Do you own him in any of your leagues, Judkins? I mean, I think
in like dynasty leagues. I don't think I have.
Me too. Yeah,
I don't even know if I had him on any like best ball things this summer.
Oh wow. Yeah,
I did it earlier. That's not fair. I did it earlier in the summer, and then I was pretty well staying away.
Right. Yeah, which makes sense. I have him on 1 or 2 best balls. I definitely have him on 1 or 2 dynasties as well. But as far as redraft, like managed leagues go, I don't have him.
Yeah, I don't think I have him on a single one.
And he wasn't available last night for Fab either in any leagues. Like he had already been taken by somebody else. So
yeah.
Okay. We got War Eagle 20178 on Twitch right now. Flex position: Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Kenneth Walker are his choices. I roll with DJ Moore here in the Motor City over Allen and over Walker.
I think that's fair. These are all, I would probably package these guys in the same like group of rankings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Moore is totally fair. They're trying to get more the ball, obviously, whether it's in the backfield or out and a route as a wide receiver, of course. Keenan showed out quite well in week 1, definitely far better than I would have imagined, but I think I'm still going with Moore here. And we talked about Walker in a difficult matchup and splitting the backfield probably 50-50. Moore is probably the good call here.
I think that's the way you roll. I'm with you definitely on this. Javonte Williams, the story of the opening night game in Philadelphia I was at the FFPC watch party, and the buzz in the room was after he had scored his second touchdown in the second quarter. We're like, if he gets 3, how high does he get drafted in leagues later that night, in leagues on Friday, leagues on Saturday? And some people there's alcohol involved. And some people said, and it's different when you say this and you're not on the clock. Some people told me, yeah, if he gets a 3rd touchdown before halftime, he's going at the 1-2 turn, and I'm taking him. Which alcohol is involved, yeah. And thank God it didn't happen, because I think a lot of people would have been disappointed. But the full story from the opening night: Williams, 15 carries, 54 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also caught 2 balls for 10 yards. The first 2 drives ended with Javonte Williams 1-yard touchdowns. This is only the 3rd time in his career that he had scored 2 touchdowns in the same game. He was a plotter. He was an accumulator. He had a ton between the tackles. He did not look elusive. He did not look explosive. Miles Sanders helped the Javonte Williams cause by losing a red zone fumble as well. So that helped Williams look even better. Jaden Blue was a healthy scratch, so he wasn't even out. They couldn't even put him in if he wanted to. Williams, to me, and I have him in a few leagues, Justin, tell me if this makes sense. I feel fine with them flexing out in my week 2 lineups. I feel a little dirty if I'm starting him as my second running back, though.
Yeah, this is another guy that I got incredibly wrong this summer. I mean, I still have time to.
It's 1 week.
Myself.
It's 1 week.
I have time.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is some helmet scouting for sure, but this is like a very real feeling of late career Ezekiel Elliott, just like getting 3.5 yards a carry, but still getting double-digit touchdowns. And then, yeah, I mean, Jaden Blue being a healthy scratch pregame or the day before even maybe was like, man, I got this backfield very, very wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, if the Cowboys are going to be the kind of high-octane passing offense as we think they may be with George Pickens, they weren't exactly in week 1, but again, they have time. They're going to be near the goal line often, and these are a lot of touchdown opportunities. I don't think they were going to give Miles Sanders those opportunities before that fumble. They're not going to start after now, although maybe Blue was in a healthy scratch after. I mean, that 40-yard run was like almost all of Miles Sanders' yards, right? And then he fumbled at the end.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
He's probably doghouse material at this point. But yeah, I mean, Javonte Williams is the only one we can start out of the 3 of them, quite obviously.
And I did deploy him out there in some lineups. We'll see how if it works. By the way,
it had to have felt so good.
No, not week 1. I deployed.
Oh, you didn't start. Okay.
I'm saying for week 2, I deployed him.
Yeah.
He gets the Giants this week, and I did talk to some people, because you get the free look in the FFPC. So obviously people inserted Javonte Williams into their lineups. Then I talked to a couple of people who I play against in the KFFSC, where you don't have the free look there. And he was telling me, he's like, yeah, I ended up having to start him because he was missing some other guy that he was good. I can't remember. He said, but he's missing like a flex that like, oh, I can't play him now. And I had to start Javonte Williams. Well, that worked out nicely for you. Congratulations. Right. A player that I drafted in a lot of spots late this year was Brashard Smith. 2 kickoffs. He gets returned for 63 yards when they lost to the Chargers on Friday. Seems like, even though he's a 7th round rookie, it seems like he might have a role in this offense. I don't think I cut him at waiver, on the waiver wire run last night in any of my leagues. I want to see what happens, what develops here, because Kareem Hunt looks slow. Pacheco, the way he plays, he's not going to stay healthy for 17 games. Elijah Mitchell's kind of, he's Elijah Mitchell. I think there's something here with Brashard Smith.
Yeah, Pacheco and Kareem Hunt combined for 0.34 yards per route run in week 1, which we probably could have expected. Pacheco's not a pass catcher, and Kareem Hunt hasn't been fast in half a decade. So if they want to get some explosiveness on the field, you would think Brashard Smith would be the answer there. And if Worthy really is going to miss some time here, obviously Rashee Rice is still out for another 4 or 5 weeks. Mm-hmm. So getting some speed on the field at some point would probably behoove them, as opposed to just making Patrick Mahomes run around. I guess they weren't making him, but he would have more options to not run around if Brashard Smith would get a little playing time. And I think he's a fantastic stash right now. Just to see what happens, like you said.
Yeah, I want him to hit before the buys do, so I know if I can keep him around or not.
Yeah.
But then that may even be too early to cut bait, because we could see him develop at the end of the season, and that's really when he could be crushing it for you. So it's keep him if you can keep him, because I think it might pay off.
Right.
Speaking of a player that you may or may not want to keep anymore, Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, reporting the NFL's begun a review of the recent domestic violence allegations against Tyreek Hill. We heard that there was some interest from both the Chiefs and the Steelers about trading for Tyreek Hill, because it does seem the Dolphins season is already going down the tubes. I bring this up from this aspect. In Dynasty, is there value in trying to trade for Tyreek Hill now, knowing that he could be cut, he could be traded, he could be suspended? I don't know. Is there value in offering up 65 cents on the dollar, 70 cents on the dollar for Tyreek Hill in Dynasty leagues right now? Or are we just chasing our tails with that, Justin, and we're just wasting our time?
The vibes couldn't possibly be any worse around Tyreek Hill and possibly the Dolphins in general. I think you're onto something. If he ends up on another team, if someone either gives up draft capital or they pick him up or whatever, they're not going to pick him up to be like a rotational wide receiver 4. They wouldn't take that risk without wanting to stick him into a wide receiver 1 spot. Obviously, the Chiefs are the first team that come to mind, and they could probably use him at this point. I don't know. It's how much would you possibly give up for Tyreek Hill, though? I'm not giving up like future firsts for
not a future first.
This version of Tyreek Hill. This is like an Antonio Brown situation, like just chasing after, it's so rough. I don't have a ton of Tyreek Hill either, but I don't know what would I give Tyreek Hill up for?
And we have
him off for a couple seconds.
Well, okay. So here's the thing. We haven't mentioned the age aspect at all. We haven't mentioned the quarterback aspect at all, which could radically change if he goes from Tagovailoa to Mahomes, or Tagovailoa to God knows what next year in Pittsburgh. So there's that as well. A couple of seconds. I think we're in the neighborhood right now. I think I'd probably rather have those seconds, but I think it's a good starting point. I don't. If I had Tyreek Hill and somebody's giving me 2 random seconds, even if I'm in a championship window, I have to strongly consider that.
Yeah.
Jauan Jennings did not participate in practice yesterday. Nobody's healthy in San Francisco. We talked about this earlier. McCaffrey's a must start. The tight ends are not. Pearsall is basically a must. Well, maybe not a must start, but a must flex for sure on this. And Jennings too. To me, this is like I don't know. I'm just getting bad vibes with him. There's the contract thing, and then the calf thing, which was, I believe, a re-injury of a previous calf. Now he's dealing with a shoulder. I'm just getting bad vibes that this is going to be a bad season for Jennings.
Yeah, as you said, this is completely unrelated to what he was dealing with outside of the contract negotiations this summer. It wasn't his shoulder; it was his leg. So yeah, they're really piling up here. There's always the chance. I mean, I refuse to believe it, but there is a chance that the 49ers offense reaches the tipping point when they have lost too many freaking guys to continue being good. I'm not predicting that. I think they could still run a completely decent offense with Mac Jones, especially this week. They're playing the Saints, right? I think they'll be fine there. Yeah, definitely CMC. I might be even a little higher on Pearsall than you are.
Okay.
He's it depends on league size, obviously.
How
many wide receivers you have to start.
Yeah, I'm definitely not down on him. In most of the leagues I play, I have to start 3, and I can't imagine sitting him at any of those.
Yeah, leagues. I'm starting that guy as wide receiver 3 for sure. Yeah. If Jennings isn't out there, yeah, we'll see. I mean, if Jauan's shoulder heals up, how long until the leg pops up? He was disgruntled enough as it was before all of this. So yeah, I mean, I'm with you. The back-to-back bad vibes between Jennings and Tyreek right now.
I want to talk to you about Harold Fannin, another popular waiver ad in the leagues for people who maybe drafted early. He was still out there in a lot of leagues. He played 55 snaps against the Cincinnati Bengals and ended up turning those 55 snaps into 7 catches for 63 yards, 9 targets is what it took. That was the 4th most snaps of any Browns offensive player in week 1. It was the most targets of any Browns player in week 1. And he lined up all over the place, the slot, outside, 29 times as an inline tight end, 3 snaps out of the backfield. What more could Fannin have done to make you think that this guy not only needs to be on every roster, but I have to start considering him as a flex in the FFPC with the tight end premium scoring.
Yeah.
You look at Harold Fannin right now in Baltimore this week. I think this probably isn't even that bold. I think he's going to be started in more FFPC leagues than he sat in week two.
The good news for Njoku managers is Flacco did lead the league in dropbacks, attempts, and completions out of two tight end sets, excuse me. So Njoku and Fannin were out there a lot together. But yeah, this is definitely an interesting situation. If this is what Fannin's deployed as in his first professional game, I mean, it certainly caps what we could expect out of Njoku, especially those of us who are drafting him as the tight end 6. I don't know about a top 6 finish now as the 3rd or 4th pass catcher. We thought Njoku was going to be number 2. So now he's splitting with Judy, who a lot of people are into, Tillman, who's looking good, Fannin, who obviously looks fantastic. As long as Joe Flacco is throwing 60 times a game, we're good. So just keep that up, and we can support all these guys.
We got to support our buddy Boone Poles on Twitch right now, watching us. Ricky Pearsall or Deebo Samuel is what's facing him for week 2. Obviously, Deebo Samuel in action tonight against the Packers, or he could go with Pearsall. These guys were teammates last year, and I'm going to take Pearsall in this matchup. If I can only play one, I'm playing Pearsall and sitting Samuel.
Yeah, I think it's like coin flip territory for me. So I'll just, we just talked about Pearsall. He'll be the only guy standing up in San Francisco this week. So I'm here for it.
William Brown also letting us know that he's in 13 FFPC leagues. And last night he got 9 shares of Kayshon Boutte, and he picked up 7 shares of Juwan Johnson in those leagues.
William.
So congratulations. William is probably one of the crazy spending all the money on Boutte and Juwan Johnson. I was doing the same in KFFSC. So listen, it happens. Week 1 is the only week of the year where if you pick somebody up, you get them for the rest of the season. Everybody else, it's going to go down from here. So we'll see what happens there. For those of you who are interested in playing weekly games, the FFPC Weekly Challenge is live right now. There's no draft. There's no salary cap. You just pick 10 players. They can't be on the same team. You can win up to $2,500, 10, 30, and 100-team contests. myffpc.com, myffpc.com is where to go for that. Kojak23 has a question on Twitch. We're going to answer that when we come back, as well as our big Thursday night football preview. It's Washington. It's Green Bay. Who do you need to start? Who do you need to sit? You let us know. We're going to tell you what we think He is Justin Edwards from 4 for 4 and Pro Football Focus. I'm Eric Balkman. You're watching FFPC Insider Access on the Better Sports Network. Don't go anywhere.
Folks, let me talk to you about my favorite weekly platform to play on. We all play Dynasty and we all play Redraft, but we got to find some place to play weekly. And the FFPC Weekly Challenge is my favorite. If you're like me and you're tired of the constraints of salary caps or having to do a draft to make a team, or even having to play against these people that are stacking up the same team, stacking up certain games, and you feel like you have to put in a million entries or have to have those certain stacks to win, then come play over at FFPC. Really, the only main rule that you have to deal with is that you cannot select multiple players from the same team. You can't stack Joe Burrow with Jamar Chase, and to me, that's just fine. I'm going out and I'm trying to find the best of the best of the best players and put them into a lineup. And that's what you can do over at my FFPC. You can go out and you can take the number one running back in Bijan Robinson, and you can also have Saquon Barkley. As long as they're not in the same team, you can put them all into a lineup, right? And there's 4 flexes for this, so there's a lot of flexibility. There's 2 different contests, one that has kickers and defenses, one that's just position players. Then you also have a bunch of different price points you can play at: $35, $100, or $200 buy-in. And you're going out and you're just picking the absolute chalk plays, maybe sneaking in a little bit of a sleeper there, somebody that you think can really blow up that week. And that's how it works. It's one of the best contests out there for the sharpest gamers. And when you win on the FFPC, people take notice. That is where the best high stakes games are. That's where the best experts play. And that's where I play, because I want to be an FFPC champion and put that title on me, put the money in my pocket and put that in my bio. FFPC champion. And the FFPC weekly contest is the best place to play during the season.
FFPC Insider Access rolls on here, hour number 2 on the Better Sports Network. Want to remind everybody, thank you, Andrew Cooper, by the way, for that lovely plug. The weekly challenge is live at myffpc.com. Like Coop said, there's no draft, there's no salary cap. You're just picking 10 players. None of them can be on the same team, and you can win up to $2,500. 10, 30, 100-team contests. myffpc.com was where to go for that. myffpc.com. Kojak23 joins us on Twitch here. Justin Edwards from 4 for 4 and Pro Football Focus at Justin_Redwords on the X. Deebo Samuel or DeAndre Swift in flex for PPR. I lean towards Samuel here over Swift.
I was going to say the same thing. I thought it was going to be a little back and forth. Like, I think I'd rather have Deebo here, but
yeah,
we're on the same page.
I mean, I can't remember who was talking about this. It might have been Brett Whitefield from Fantasy Points said that, Deebo Samuel is still fat. He still looks fat, but he put up numbers. So we don't really care what he looks like. He's
just a running back out there. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and as long as he's putting up numbers, that's all we care about. He did last week, and he might do the same tonight on this as well. Taim, Kenneth Walker, Matthew Golden, Tucker Kraft. Can only start one full PPR. Give me Tucker Kraft on that team over Golden and over Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, let's go for that.
CEO Yeti on Twitch, Matthew Golden or Stephon Diggs. We've been talking about Kayshon Boutte. We shouldn't forget about Stephon Diggs. I roll with Diggs here, even though Boutte looks good. Demario Douglas obviously involved, and Hunter Henry was involved. I don't know if Matthew Golden is going to be out and running enough routes to matter tonight. I do believe Diggs will, and that's why I say Diggs here.
Yeah, the first game back from, he only had 40. I'm talking about Diggs, sorry. Mm-hmm. Stephon Diggs only had 41% of the snaps in week 1. We expect that to go up from here. He also spent most of his summer, like on a boat. So we weren't expecting to get him back until like a month into the season. So I think Diggs will grow from here, even though I don't think he's going to be like an overall top 20 wide receiver for the rest of the season, but he'll be more usable than he was.
I don't have the figures in front of me, but I can't believe Matthew Golden's snap share percentage was much higher than 41%, and he's healthy.
No, I think it was lower, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so there's that as well. Let's get into we are what, about 10 minutes from kickoff. Let's pound out as much of this as we can here before we go back to the starts or sits. So we got Commanders Packers tonight. We'll start with the Commanders. Jaden Daniels' numbers against the blitz from the Giants last week were not great. The Giants definitely did not start off well against Daniels, and then once they started to get some pressure on him, Daniels, like, I want to say like 3 of 6 or 29 yards. It wasn't very good. Are we exposing anything here with Daniels? Did the Giants expose anything with Daniels here? Obviously, you're still starting him anywhere, but you always worry about, sophomore slumps and people having more tape on you now. How concerned are you with Daniels, where he just wasn't near his best, or quite frankly, near average on the blitz last week?
I mean, a little bit, not enough, as you said, not enough to even consider not starting him in any size league. He's still out there as a top 3 option. But yeah, as you mentioned, he had a 43% on target rate last week when the Giants rushed 5 or more pass rushers. That was the worst of week 1. Is a little bit lower than his 67% on target rate with 5 or more pass rushers last year, but that was also 27th in the league. But he also had 285 scramble yards against pressure last year. That was by far the most in the league. So we still have, of course, we always have his legs to create a floor here. I think Parsons is a full go as far as I saw. I think they'll try a lot of the same things that the Giants did with Abdul Carter. Well, they will move Parsons around. They'll try to get him in the interior. There's a kind of a soft spot at left guard in Washington with Brandon Coleman. So I think there is a little question here of, can Daniels be the overall QB1 this week? I would say probably not. I mean, of course he could, but I wouldn't put money on it. But is he still a top 5 quarterback in fantasy? Yes. So I guess I'm worried about it, but the short of it is I don't know that it matters for our purposes.
Right. Parsons hardly played in the first quarter against Detroit. His snaps actually went up as the game went on, and I think he ended up playing just under half of them. I don't think the Packers wanted to play him that many snaps in the first game, and now he's coming off a short week. So we'll see how many snaps he's out there for against Jaden Daniels tonight. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, we've been talking a lot about him tonight. If I set the over-under full PPR fantasy points at 9.5 for Krosky-Merritt tonight, you taking the under or the over here, Justin?
I'm probably taking the under, and it's a bet on whether or not he scores a touchdown. I think he only had
bust a big play, right?
Yeah, fair. Yeah. He had 7 pass down snaps last week. Chris Rodriguez is a scratch again this week. I saw that right before we came on. So I mean, he's still going to handle plenty of a workload, but I'd probably take the under there. It's about whether or not he scores a touchdown, I think.
I think in a perfect world, you are not playing Austin Eckler. You're sitting him, but how would you feel if you did have to flex him? Would you feel okay about it? Do you see a pathway where he can pay off for you tonight?
I think he's probably fine, particularly in a full PPR. I think that ceiling is obviously capped. I don't see a reason why they would be giving him goal line carries when they have Bill there. And Jeremy McNichols is still taking pass snaps as much as I would prefer him not, because I do have more Eckler than I should have had this summer. I think he's fine as a flex, but I mean, yeah, there are better options. I agree.
Are you surprised? What do we make of that with they obviously traded Brian Robinson, but what do you make of them still having McNichols, Krosky-Merritt, obviously, Eckler is there, and then Chris Rodriguez is a healthy scratch. What do you make of them keeping 4 running backs here? And can we read between the lines and see how they truly feel about some of these players, or is it still too early for that?
I don't know. I think we could probably read through the lines, and I think they probably like Bill more than I'm giving them credit for, to be quite honest. Yeah. And he's already on the top of everyone's radar. Yeah, I mean they keep. There's nothing wrong with Chris Rodriguez, right? This is his second straight healthy scratch, so they clearly don't care to have him out there. Why are they caring? They almost had 5 running backs going into the season. Right. That would have been something.
Given what Deebo Samuel did last week, and I'm going to bring up his full line here. This was against the New York Giants. Last week was who they played. If you look at Samuel, he ends up with 10 targets, catches 7 of them for 77 yards, has the 1 carry for 19 yards and the touchdown. So there's a lot to like about Deebo Samuel. How close is he to being a must-start guy at wide receiver here going forward? I mean, especially if we see something again tonight where he puts up 15-plus fantasy, we have to seriously start looking at okay, maybe the OG Deebo is back, and we need to start seriously looking at getting this guy in our lineup by hook or by crook every week.
I mean, I think it's think we're already there. Honestly, I don't see myself like not starting Deebo Samuel at this point, at least as a flex option, unless I have a completely loaded wide receiver room and a completely loaded running back room. If I have those, I'm probably trying to trade someone to begin with because I would like Deebo on there. I don't see a reason why they're not going to continue to target Deebo. I mean, I know Terry just got paid after a summer of not being with the team, but if they can get more explosive yak type of passes out of Deebo Samuel, I think they'll continue to lean that way. He's being used a ton. He had four targets from behind the line of scrimmage in week 1. So they clearly want to see him involved.
We'll put you on the clock here. 4 minutes until kickoff. We talked about a lot of these guys, or both of these guys, a lot tonight, but it always seemed like we had to pick 2 of them, and these were the 2 we always picked. What if you can only play Deebo Samuel or Hollywood Brown on Sunday? Do you just take the safety with Samuel tonight and not worry about Hollywood Brown, whether Xavier Worthy's out there on Sunday afternoon?
Oh man, I think I'm taking Deebo.
Yeah,
which sounds kind of wild.
I would too. Because I mean, like, here's the thing: what happens if Samuel's out there tonight? He catches 5 or 6 balls. He gets 10, 15 yards rushing. Maybe he gets in the end zone, and then you have Hollywood Brown on Sunday, and Xavier Worthy's out there, like he didn't even miss. You're gonna feel awful about that. Right. So I think you take the safety in Deebo Samuel tonight and get him in your lineup. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to bring up from that Commanders game, Terry McLaurin, 2 catches for 27 yards. He only saw 4 targets. Was this a case of the Giants doing something in coverage? Was this a case of this guy is still ramping up to sort of get in football shape because he missed so much time? Or was this just, regardless, like it was just a week 1 anomaly and we could just move on?
I think it was just kind of, I mean, I did say how much I like Deebo. I think it's a bit of an anomaly. I think he's not going to have a lot of 4 target games going forward. But yeah, I think it honestly could just be ramping up. He didn't rejoin the team until like the 3rd week of August or something, which was, a couple weeks ago, I guess 3 weeks ago. So, and it's not like Terry needs to connect with Daniels. They just did that last year, but I think it's a bit of an anomaly. I don't know that McLaurin is like an every week, like locked in top 20 wide receiver though. I'll say that. I mean, I think he's a top 36 wide receiver moving forward. Maybe like top 30. Touchdown
regression too was a big reason I stayed away from McLaurin. Yeah, and he just happened to be going in a spot where I felt like it was the old Sesame Street thing. One of these things is not like the other, and I always I like these other guys, Pickens and Jameson Williams and all these other guys that I didn't think had this negative regression coming. Okay, let's see here. I'll go back to the chat here. CJ Stroud and Nico Collins. Should I drop Stroud and pick up JJ McCarthy? I would. I could get down for that.
Yeah.
War Eagle 20178. Like he does have Collins, so he's got the hookup. So if you are playing in a closed 12-team league, I don't have a problem with it. I understand if you're playing in like a national tournament, like the FFPC main event or something like that, then maybe you wouldn't want to break up that connection. But I would have no problem with it otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, Stroud doesn't run. He's never ran, and if week 1 is any indication, the ball is probably only going to go to one player if he's going off, and you could just have Stroud's breakout games by having Nico Collins.
I want to get this last minute emergency trade from Aiden. He can, I don't know which side he's on here, but McLaurin for Cortland Sutton. I think I'd lean towards rather having Sutton this year than McLaurin.
Yeah. I think I would too, actually.
Okay, let's do the Packers here as we're just minutes away from kickoff. Jordan Love, do you believe that he's going to have closer to his 2023 season, especially at the end of the 2023 season? Or is he going to do numbers like last year when the Packers became a dominant ground game? Which side do you think he's closer to in 2025?
You'd have to lean toward 2023. I'm not saying he's going to completely replicate those numbers, but he had so many crap injuries, and they started right off the bat last year too. It was that first game in Brazil, I think, when he messed himself up, and then it ended up being a groin injury because he was playing on it, and it just snowballed throughout the season. We saw some Malik Willis games, which were fun. Maybe not for Packers fans, but I enjoyed watching those games.
They were. I live in Northeast. I live in Northeast Wisconsin, so they were fun for me because they were winning them. Sweating him out, it wasn't the most fun thing in the world watching Malik Willis. But although Willis looked pretty good when he was doing it.
You would think. They have those 2 offensive line injuries just for tonight. I don't think those are lingering injuries. No. So their offensive line is also very deep. So I don't think they're like, up crap creek tonight either. But get those guys back. They have 12 competent wide receivers and a couple good tight ends. As long as he's healthy, I think it's much closer to that 2023 season. I don't know if he's like an MVP candidate like he almost was in 23, but it'll be better than last year, I think.
Yeah, Aaron Banks, the starting left guard for the Packers, is out, and then Zach Tom, the Pro Bowl right tackle, is out. They are going to be replacing him with Darian Kennard, a guy they just picked up from the Eagles shortly before the season started. He played pretty well last week. Rotated with their second-round pick, Anthony Belton, for a few snaps. That was at right tackle. And then left tackle, Jordan Morgan took over for Banks. Jordan Morgan was already rotating snaps with Sean Ryan at right guard. Morgan was the first-round pick last year out of Arizona State. So these guys are a little bit pedigreed. I think, this is a case of like, it's week 2. We're on a short week. Let's not chance it. And I think that was they wanted him to play, but ultimately cooler heads prevailed. And I think they're going to be okay. I'm not worried about Josh Jacobs behind those backups at all.
Yeah.
Jaden Reed, we talked about him a little bit. I can't play him with any kind of confidence tonight. Are you playing Jaden Reed with any kind of confidence in any of your lineups, Justin?
No, I mean he's the purest form of a boom bust guy, where he could catch 5-6 balls and go for $150, a couple touchdowns, but he could just as likely get you 4 points or 0. He had plenty of goose eggs last year too. I think some of those were tied to Malik Willis, but I don't know why I keep going back to Malik Willis. No, I'm not starting him with confidence anywhere. He's a guy that I was targeting in best ball type lineups, but in just redraft leagues where I do have him, I wonder why I took him.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Like, when am I going to play him? Bye weeks, I guess.
Tucker Kraft, too. I want to get to this shortly before kickoff here. I think in FFPC leagues, it's really, really difficult for me to say with tight end premium scoring and with 2 flex spots, really difficult for me to say, yeah, I wouldn't play Kraft. I think more often than not, I'm playing him. If there's one Packers pass catcher I have confidence in, it's got to be Kraft.
Yeah. I mean, this is like if you're in the betting streets and you're not taking Josh Jacobs to score a touchdown, you should probably be clicking on Tucker Kraft.
Tucker Kraft, that's the one that you're doing. The Packers inexplicably wearing their whiteout uniforms in September tonight with the white helmets, the white jerseys, and the white pants tonight. They wanted fans to do the same thing. I do see a lot of white in the crowd right now as the game is underway. The Packers getting the ball first, but it's not overwhelming. The last thing I want to bring up here, and this isn't necessarily a starter sit for the Packers tonight, Romeo Doubs is a player that I did not draft in a lot of spots. I'm not looking to acquire him in Dynasty or any of my leagues, quite frankly, Justin. I know that he's going to make plays here or there. He doesn't strike me as the type of player, even though he's on the field a ton and he's going to get a ton of chances, right, to catch the ball. And he did make a big play last week. I like Jaden Reed's upside better. I like the ceiling for Matthew Golden better. I could definitely see Tucker Kraft being the top 5 players at his position, right? I don't see that with Doubs. So in that case, is he a roster clogger? Is he a guy that just takes up space? You never really use him and you need to get rid of him? Or, I mean, can we make that argument with other players like Golden and Reed, given how this Packers offense operates?
Yeah, I mean, Doubs is the closest thing to like a sure thing in Green Bay, just in the sense that he's on the field. He's actually on the field in 2 wide receiver sets. They've made it clear over and over again they have no interest in putting Jaden Reed in 2 wide receiver sets for more than a couple snaps, maybe not even a couple snaps a game, couple snaps a month, maybe. They stick him out there on sets. Yeah, I mean, I would love to hang on to Doubs, but even more than Reed, when am I going to start Romeo Doubs at any point? So yeah, he probably is a roster clogger. I mean, I guess I would like to have him on dynasty squads, but again, what am I waiting for? They're not going to suddenly start targeting him or anyone else at more than like an 18% target share. It was just about whether or not someone scores a touchdown, and we're hoping that Golden becomes more than this long line of wide receiver 3s.
Yes, exactly.
We'll
You know what's funny about Dobbs too is the Packers obviously just upped Christian Watson. They extended him 1 year. Is basically Watson was one pick away from being a first-round pick, and this was essentially picking up his fifth-year option. They're giving him $13.25 million next year as he recovers from the torn ACL and hopefully be back at some point this year. The Packers have made it clear, especially with the Xavier Williams selection in the third round this year, that their offense, as far as the wide receivers are going to go, and pass catchers, it's Tucker Kraft, it's Matthew Golden, it's maybe or maybe not Christian Watson. We don't know. We'll see what happens next year. It's Jaden Reed, it's Xavier Williams, and it seems like Romeo Dobbs is the odd man out. You know, he got the 2-game suspension last year, and I was talking with somebody. I can't remember who I was talking to about this, but they said, you know, he scored a touchdown in preseason. And it was like he celebrated. He didn't celebrate at all. His reaction was basically like an incomplete pass that was not close to him. That was his reaction to scoring a touchdown. No Lambeau leap, no nothing. So I think we all believe that this guy is going to be elsewhere out of Green Bay after this year. And then you think about, like, when are you ever going to start Romeo Dobbs? Probably when he's on a new team. Because he will get paid. Somebody's going to pay him, maybe even Shakir money for all I know. And I don't know what the wide receiver free agent market looks like next year, but if he gets Shakir money, then that's like, yeah, he's going to be on the field a ton. They're going to feature him. He's probably going to be threatening to catch 70, 75 balls. Then at that point, I'm in on Romeo Dobbs. Right now, I'm not in on him whatsoever.
Yeah, that's completely fair.
The Packers are now hitting Washington territory here. There's a defensive holding penalty on Marshawn Lattimore on 3rd and 9. Yes. Yeah. Well, they had couple of runs to Jacobs and a couple of completions to Dontavian Wicks, which he inexplicably caught. I thought he was allergic to the football, but he catches both of them. One for 6 yards, one for 13 yards. And then we get the holding penalty on Lattimore. So this is going to set up the Packers first and 10. Beg your pardon. Now it's a 1st and 15 because there's a false start on Josh Jacobs. So 1st and 15 from the Washington 45. I think what we should do is step out, catch our breath. And then when we come back, we're going to pound out a ton of other start sit questions. If you have any others on Twitch, on X, on YouTube, keep posting them in there. Justin and I are going to get into the thick of some of the tough lineup decisions that are facing fantasy players and FFPC players all over the world this week for week 2. He is Justin Edwards from 4 for 4 and Pro Football Focus. I'm Eric Balkman from the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, the Road of His High Stakes Lowdown, of course, the FFPC. FFPC Insider Access continues as we cover the game and hang out with you watching the first quarter tonight of the Packers and Commanders. We roll on right after this.
Folks, let me talk to you about my favorite weekly platform to play on. You know, we all play Dynasty and we all play Redraft, but we got to find some place to play weekly. And the FFPC Weekly Challenge is my favorite. If you're like me and you're tired of the constraints of salary caps or having to do a draft to make a team, or even having to play against these people that are stacking up the same team, stacking up certain games, and you feel like you have to put in a million entries or have to have those certain stacks to win, then come play over at FFPC. Really, the only main rule that you have to deal with is that you cannot select multiple players from the same team. You can't stack Joe Burrow with Jamar Chase, and to me, that's just fine. I'm going out and I'm trying to find the best of the best of the best players and put them into a lineup. And that's what you can do over at my FFPC. You can go out and you can take the number 1 running back in Bijan Robinson, and you can also have Saquon Barkley. As long as they're not in the same team, you can put them all into a lineup, right? And there's 4 flexes for this, so there's a lot of flexibility. There's 2 different contests, one that has kickers and defenses, one that's just position players. Then you also have a bunch of different price points you can play at: $35, $100, or $200 buy-in. And you're going out and you're just picking the absolute chalk plays, maybe sneaking in a little bit of a sleeper there, somebody that you think can really blow up that week. And that's how it works. It's one of the best contests out there for the sharpest gamers. And when you win on the FFPC, people take notice. That is where the best high stakes games are. That's where the best experts play. And that's where I play, because I want to be an FFPC champion and put that title on me, put the money in my pocket and put that in my bio. FFPC champion. And the FFPC weekly contest is the best place to play during the season.
This is where you want to be, myffpc.com, according to Andrew Cooper from Fantasy Alarm. Myffpc.com, home of the FFPC Weekly Challenge, 10, 30, and 100-team leagues. No draft, no salary cap. Just pick your 10 players that you want, and you can win big, up to $2,500 on a week-to-week basis. Had some action here in the game. We had another Dontavian Wicks catch, or was it somebody? It might have been somebody else. And we just had
Dobbs, I think.
Dobbs, that's who it was. Thank you. Justin Edwards from 4for4 and Pro Football Focus. And then the big fireworks here. We have a lot going on this play. Jaden Reed, a 39-yard touchdown catch from Jordan Love. However, it's nullified. The second-round pick, Anthony Belton, who actually got the start over the veteran from the Philadelphia Eagles, Darian Kennard. He gets flagged for holding Armstrong on this play, and it is a nullified touchdown. So 10-yard penalty, now 3rd and 19 from the Washington 19. It is a 16-yard catch to Chris Brooks. Makes it 4th and 3 for the Commanders. The problem here, what the other thing that happened on that play, Jaden Reed falls hard on his right shoulder, and his right arm's kind of dangling as he jogs to the sideline. Joe King posting on YouTube. All Reed does is score touchdowns and get hurt. He's multitasking tonight. Problem is he didn't get the touchdown. He did not get the touchdown thanks to Anthony Belton. They're looking at him on the sideline. So if you started Jaden Reed, which I think, Justin, we told most people not to do tonight.
I'm pretty sure we said don't.
Right. And we'll see if he comes back into the game. It remains to be seen what happens here. The Packers end up going for it on 4th down and 3. Incomplete deep middle pass to Matthew Golden. And the Commanders now have the ball at their own 33-yard line. And we are going to see our first taste of Jaden Daniels tonight with 10:25 to go in the first quarter. Wow, what an experience that was. Okay, let's talk about Omarion Hampton and Chuba Hubbard. I think there are people that have drafted both of these players, especially if you got Hampton late, that have the decision where you can, you have to pick one of these guys. Who's it going to be this week? Hampton, who obviously is sharing the rock with Najee Harris, or is it going to be Chuba Hubbard, a guy that, granted you got Trevor Etienne there, you also have Rico Dowdle there. What do you do here if you can only start one of these guys between Hampton and Chuba Hubbard this week? I should tell you who they're playing actually too. That would make more sense if I could do that and set you up like a good host should be doing. Chuba Hubbard this week Omarion Hampton is at Las Vegas on Monday Night Football. And then that's Omarion Hampton. Chuba Hubbard this week, the Carolina Panthers are taking on the Arizona Cardinals in the desert. So they're both on the road. You can only play one. Who's it going to be?
Probably going with Chuba Hubbard here. There's a lot of talk even from the coaching staff about kind of ringing in his usage a little bit this year. They had a couple more. They obviously added a couple guys, let a couple guys walk. And then in week 1, he gets 19 opportunities in a blowout loss. So it's like, I don't know if we might have to hit up Coach Speak Index for this one. But I think this is Hubbard. I don't love the Panthers offense after what they kind of showed in week 1, but if we're looking at 18 to 20 something opportunities, I'm probably just going to go with Chuba Hubbard here.
Let's see here. I want to go to YouTube. And by the way, I agree with you. It is Hubbard. Manny Fave on YouTube. Does George Holani have any stash value just in case Walker and Charbonnet get hurt? Would he be next to timeshare? Listen, he might be. You got to be playing in a deep league to draft or to hold the guy behind the guy.
Yeah.
Behind the guy in this case. So yes, if they were to go down, I think he would get picked up in some FFPC leagues. I'm waiting for that to happen. I do not have the roster space for this guy right now. So if you want to do a preemptive stash, listen, I looked at my Scott Fishbowl team. I had a couple of spots to play with, and I was like, okay, who are my preemptive, one injury, and there's just nothing out there. So in that case, then pick up Holani if it's just that or a dead roster spot. But for me, there's other ways to spend your roster spots at the moment. I
think if one of these guys go down, the other guy's going to have like 75 80% of the workload. I don't know. I don't think that George Halani is going to be splitting 50-50 with either Kenneth Walker or Charbonnet. But I do. I mean, I see where you're coming from. And again, my Scott Fish team is just like whoever, Taj Brooks, Jalen Wright. It's just like those guys. And I could cut any of those guys at any point, but I'm not going to cut him for George Halani.
Damian Martinez he's still in the picture there too. I mean, or he would be in the picture if there was a significant injury, I would imagine. Yeah.
Right.
Taylor 200,006, I guess, on Twitch. Jahmyr Gibbs and Rashee Rice. Would you trade those players for Bijan Robinson? I would rather have Gibbs and Rice than Robinson. I always want to get the best player in the deal. I'm not sure Robinson is in this case.
Yeah, I think even if you think it's a very slight upgrade from like the RB5 to the RB4 or something, I don't think it's enough to not just hold on to Rice and see what transpires once he hits the field.
It'd be different if it was just a throwaway pick. When Rice is healthy, he could be like a top 15 guy, top 15.
If you had like Gibbs and Juju Smith-Schuster, that'd be
then okay,
I would do that.
Whatever. Then I would have no problem with that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Cash Money. Do you like Tony Pollard or Travis Etienne better rest of season? Well, based on the Tank Bigsby trade and based on what I saw from Travis Etienne in week 1, I'm definitely more interested in Travis Etienne than Pollard the rest of the season. What Tyreek Spears probably be back week 5, right?
Right.
Who's coming to take Etienne's touches away? I mean, maybe Bashal Tutin later on in the season, maybe LaQuint Allen, but those are both big maybes. You know, Spears is going to be involved when he's back. And I like the offense in Jacksonville with Liam Cohen significantly better than the one in Tennessee.
That's what I was going to say. Even if you had them back to back and, talent or production rankings, which team do you think is going to have the most raw points by the end of the season, the Jaguars or the Titans? Mm-hmm. So I think you just have to lean towards the better offense.
The answer there is ETN for sure, as the Commanders have a 3rd and 8 from their own territory that is snuffed out by the Green Bay Packers, and it looks like they will be punting here 4th and 4 from their own 39. Beg your pardon. Did they go for that? I'm gonna have to wait to see. It's wild because I'm trying to talk to you. I'm trying to talk to the viewers, and right. I got the game cast on, and I also have the game on. So there's just the stimulation for the football parts of my brain right now is literally off the charts. I may not.
They punted.
This. They did punt. Okay, thank God. So
Jaden Reed is questionable to return.
Oh, he did take a couple of nasty hits on that drive, especially on 2nd down. When he was sacked. That was a sack. Was that Rashawn Gary that got him? No, Devontae Wyatt, beg your pardon. And he's questionable. Do we know what the injury is?
All I see is questionable.
Okay.
Oops.
So, and that was a Matthew Golden returning the punt deep in his own territory, basically runs back to the goal line and is tackled at like the 2. And I think we may have a personal foul penalty on this as it looked like the special teamer picked him up by his leg and threw him down, which I didn't think that was.
I'm sorry, I missed that. I'm just watching the game cast.
No, that was not on the game cast. The officials are talking over it right now. But yeah, it looked like he got tackled right at the goal line, and then the defender just held onto his leg and then picked him up and threw him down. They may be picking up this flag. I'm not sure, but it was wild, man. I think it should have been a flag, but I'm a little bit biased. They're showing it, they're redoing it here again, and yeah, he just wrestles him to the ground, and then sort of like Golden kind of got up, and then the defender picked up his leg like he thought he was still not tackled, and then he threw him back down. You'll have to watch it later. I'm doing a horrible job of explaining this. This is awful television.
I'll look it up.
David Montgomery or Jaylen Warren. Let's get back to that. 2 guys that underwhelmed in week 1. 2 guys that I quite frankly believe in. 2 guys that I drafted as my number 2 and number 3 running backs in a lot of leagues this year. Not a lot, but a significant amount. You have those guys. If you have that decision facing you this week, Jaylen Warren at home against the Seahawks or David Montgomery at home against the Bears, which one are you picking here, Justin?
I might lean David Montgomery here. The issue is like we have to have like touched. I mean, this is such a stupid analysis, but we literally have to have touchdowns for David Montgomery to hit like his fantasy ceiling. Unlike Jahmyr Gibbs, who can get there in a blowout game or whatever. And then when the Lions score 6 or 8 or how many points did they score last week? 6.
Yeah.
When that happens, David Montgomery is not going to be a good start. So I think I'm leaning Montgomery here. We have to assume Caleb Johnson's going to be more involved in the offense after he had 1 carry and 0 targets in week 1. And then Kenneth Gainwell actually looked kind of good in week 1. So I don't know if I'm like outright benching Jaylen Warren, but if I've got like that deep back end RB2, I'm probably just going with Montgomery.
Montgomery's Lions are 6-point favorites with a total of 46.5. So that is looking good for a nice little bounce back for Montgomery.
That's a Montgomery game.
Jungle Nuts on YouTube. Do I start Breece Hall or Tyreek Hill at the flex? He's already starting Justin Fields and Garrett Wilson. This would be a third jet that he's starting Breece Hall. And Joe King already saying that it's Breece Hall, easy for him. He gets so many more touches. I like what I saw from Breece Hall last week. Yes, I would start the 3 Jets and play Breece Hall over Tyreek Hill. What say you, Justin?
Yeah, it's terrifying. This is the new and improved Justin Fields offense, though. Starting 3 Jets is absolutely uncomfortable. I understand Jungle Nuts.
I mean, he is coming off his best game as a pro, arguably his best game as a pro.
Right.
So there's that. And he did it against the Steelers defense that, maybe they are what we thought, and the Jets are really good, or maybe the Steelers defense just had an off week. I don't know what it was, but they got manhandled in the trenches on that game. Joe King, he is also saying this week 2, Dylan Sampson or Calvin Ridley is a decision he has to make this week. Given the uncertainty with Judkins and knowing that Ford is still there, and I know that Ridley's going to see a lot of targets. I'm rolling with Ridley in that situation over Dylan Sampson.
Yeah, I think Ridley, even though they might not be the most efficient looks, he could have a number of double-digit target games, and hopefully that first one is here in week 2.
Right. Jaden Reed being taken back to the locker room, right arm just dangling next to him. So we could be looking at a separated shoulder. I don't know. It looks like he's in a significant amount of pain. Could be a dislocated shoulder where they pop it back in. I really don't know what's going to happen there. All I know is the Packers offense is back on the field inside their own 20, moving the football right now without Jaden Reed as he is in the locker room. Speaking of the Packers, what about Aaron Jones, the current Minnesota Viking? Would you start him over Isaiah Pacheco this week? Aaron Jones for Minnesota, he is going to be playing in Minnesota against the Atlanta Falcons, whereas who's the other guy said Isaiah Pacheco gets the Eagles at home. Who would you rather play? And I think the Aaron Jones conversation is interesting based on the usage we saw with him and Jordan Mason last week.
I think I'm probably still sticking with Aaron Jones, trying to take a wait and see approach with Isaiah Pacheco, who I did take a lot of this summer. But yeah, it wasn't looking that great in week 1. Who are they playing again? You just said it. And
Aaron Jones is playing the Falcons.
Oh yeah. And then Pacheco's playing the Eagles in their front. Yeah, I still think I'm taking Aaron Jones, hoping to see more usage on the ground. He's obviously going to have the third down role almost entirely to himself. So there is some of that baked in floor, especially if we're talking about full PPR. Yeah, I don't love either one this week, but
no, I don't either. I
would lean Jones in that scenario.
I would. The pass catching thing is what does it for me. And he was like, even though he was getting out touched on the rushes, the pass catching chops for Aaron Jones, certainly something you want to be in business with here. Tucker Kraft catches the Commanders defense sleeping. He gets a 57-yard catch and run down the seam.
Oh, wow.
As the Packers are now in business in the red zone after a Josh Jacobs 1-yard run and a Jordan Love incomplete pass. It is now 3rd and 9 from the Commanders' 19 as Green Bay trying to draw first blood tonight. We shall see what happens. By the way, something else we'll have to check after we go off the air. Matt LaFleur on that first drive for Green Bay was livid, I believe, at an official on the sideline. I don't know what happened on that play, but that's something we'll have to investigate.
Do you think it was that holding call?
No, it was before the hold. It was the play to Dobbs where he caught the 6-yard pass. Something happened on that play, and I don't know what it was, but he was not upset with the holding at all. Okay, we've been talking a lot of running backs. Let's get into receivers here. Emeka Egbuka or Zay Flowers. These guys both crushed it last week, above expectations. If you can only, obviously you want to play both of them, but if you can only play one,
right.
Are you trusting Egbuka or are you trusting Flowers? Egbuka, by the way, in the end zone twice, and then Zay Flowers, one of the stars of that shootout we saw on Sunday Night Football.
I think I'm just gonna write this Ibuka train because I don't want to get lost in the I don't want to have the FOMO of the hype of Ibuka. They're playing the Texans at Houston, and then Baltimore gets Cleveland. I mean, Cleveland's front looked fantastic in week one. Granted, it was the Bengals offensive line, which is perpetually dog crap, but they could really force. It's not like Lamar Jackson has any issue throwing on the run, but they could force him out of the pocket. Maybe that makes some broken plays for Zay Flowers. I think I'd rather have Ibuka, but I mean, it's not. I'm not super aggressive with this. As you said, I'd like them both.
Yeah.
Preferably.
Yeah. And Flowers is a guy that I wouldn't necessarily say I was down on, but I didn't draft a whole lot of them this year. And Ibuka, obviously, his price just got insane towards the last couple of weeks of drafting season. Speaking of insane, not something you want to see, but Jordan Love, a 14-yard scramble for a first down, absolutely levels a Washington Commanders safety with his throwing shoulder. Again, none the worse for wear. He popped right back up. I know the Gamecast is saying Tucker Kraft is injured on the play. And I don't see an injury for Tucker Kraft here unless I'm missing it. It looked like he got tangled up with a blocker, but I didn't see anything nefarious there. So it will be first and goal for the Packers from the Commanders' 5-yard line right now. 4:44 to go in the first. They've taken a break there. We don't take breaks here, at least not a lot of them. DJ Moore or Devonta Smith is what we're looking at here. We just talked about Ibuka and Flowers, two guys that overperformed last week. What about two guys that maybe left less than a great taste in their fantasy owners' mouths? DJ Moore or Devonta Smith this week. You can only play one. Devonta Smith is obviously taking on the Chiefs in Arrowhead, so he goes on the road there. DJ Moore for the Bears is battling the Lions in Detroit. Justin, you can only play one.
It's probably a matter of my risk tolerance. Obviously, Devonta Smith more than likely has the higher ceiling, while DJ Moore very easily has the higher floor because he receives rushes and he won't get completely stuffed out of the game by the rushing attack. The hope here would be the Eagles have to push the ball maybe a little bit more with the Chiefs. It depends on what the Chiefs offense looks like. I mean, I'm probably saying Devonta Smith, depending on what the rest of my roster is looking like. If I've got some real bangers in my roster and I'm just looking for a 12-point floor, then I'd rather have DJ Moore, if that makes sense.
It does. Regarding Smith, AJ Brown has not been great. Obviously week one and then the end of last season.
Yeah.
Is it possible that Devonta Smith starts profiting from this? Or is it one of these things where it's just like, they're just running it with Hurts and Barkley, and these guys are both going to suffer. Although Goddard didn't last week, so who the hell knows?
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, good question. It's easy to sweep under the rug that AJ Brown was pretending to read on the sideline when they win the Super Bowl. But I mean, that'd be a bigger story if they would have got kicked out of the NFC Championship or something like that. Yeah, it's been a while since we've seen AJ Brown be like a stud fantasy option, obviously, including week one. And then, Devonta Smith also didn't do much of anything in week one either. So, it's certainly a possibility. I have no conviction on whether or not AJ Brown is going to just return.
I'll believe it when I see it at this point.
Right. Yeah,
I mean, it's not like he's 23 anymore. Not that he's old or anything either. But it's just one of those things. The Eagles, for my son's fantasy league this year, the way they kind of do it is kind of messed up. And they auto drafted most of it. And he ended up with AJ Brown and Devonta Smith. So he was not really happy after week one. And why should he be? But I said, son, I think the good times are going to come when you're going to be happy.
You'll have your weeks.
Yes. Speaking of having your weeks, we talked about this earlier in the show. When are you ever going to start Romeo Doubs? How about week 2 against the Commanders when he catches a 5-yard touchdown from Jordan Love as the Packers are on the board first? Brandon McManus has added the extra point. 4:33 to go in the first quarter. Quick slant gets it done. Jordan Love to Romeo Doubs, and the Packers have taken the lead against the Commanders here on Thursday Night Football.
He's so back.
Romeo Doubs, 3-touchdown night incoming. We jinxed him earlier. It's going to happen now. Okay, Travis Hunter or Jacoby Myers. Travis Hunter, not a lot of stuff going downfield for him in game one. We heard from his coach that his defensive snaps are probably going to go up a little bit more this week, although he said it won't be at the expense of his offensive snaps. And then you have Jacoby Myers, a player who could benefit if Brock Bowers does not play on Monday Night Football against the Chargers. Saddle up Jakobi Meyers, FFPC Weekly Challenge, get him in there. And then certainly a player that you want to get in your season-long lineups as well. But if you have to start Meyers at the expense of Travis Hunter, is that something you're prepared to do, Justin?
Yeah, I think so. Particularly, I mean, Bowers misses practice today. If Bowers does miss this game, Michael Mayer is not going to attract the same kind of target share as Bowers does. So I think Myers would be my answer there. We'll see from Hunter. Obviously, he's going to have ups and downs. A rookie, he's playing both sides of the ball. We'll see if he's playing more defensive snaps, and that doesn't come at the expense of the offense. I just, that's another one of those I'll believe it when I see it things. If he's going to play more defense, they're probably going to want to protect him, but also they paid the second overall pick to get him. I think in this exact scenario, I would like Jakobi Meyers, and that might seem like a very weird answer in a couple weeks.
It very well could be, and it might seem insane in week 16, right? Depending on how far Travis Hunter comes along. So I don't know. The other thing I'll move on here is as the Commanders are taking over on a touchback from McManus at the 35-yard line. I'm trying to find out if Jaden Daniels coming back on the field here. So he is coming back in, whatever he was dealing with, it wasn't serious enough to keep him out. And Austin Eckler gets stuffed for a 1-yard loss on first down. Here's an interesting one. Dallas Goedert or Dalton Kincaid. And we talked about, I think you said earlier, you're out on Kincaid, right? When we were comparing to Mark Andrews.
Yeah.
Okay. So now Kincaid plays at 1:00 on Sunday. Goddard, who was not at practice today, does not play until 4:25. At this point, I think I would be in on Dalton Kincaid because I don't want to risk taking a 0. Again, for this exercise, we'll assume you have no other option to play at 4:25. And then I think I take the quote-unquote guaranteed points with Dalton Kincaid over Goddard.
Yeah, I'll take my 7.5 Dalton Kincaid points as opposed to taking the risk on Goddard, because I mean Goddard is also someone who could go out there and lay something close to an egg too, if it is one of those games where they decide the target tree, the route tree only goes to Smith and AJ Brown, which they do from time to time.
I'm trying to look at other options that you could get. Jatavian Sanders plays in the late window. Noah Gray.
Take over that.
Okay, Noah Gray for Kansas City. I don't even know who the backup tight end is for Philly off the top of my head.
It's Grant Calcaterra.
Oh, Calcaterra. You're right. It's Grant Calcaterra. Yeah.
It was somewhere in there.
Right. And then you're looking at just all these other rostered tight ends. Cade Otton was actually available in a few of my leagues, so he might be out there. They play on do we get 2 Monday night games this week? We do.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I didn't even realize that. So you got Cade Otton out there. Dalton Schultz might be floating around out there, and then obviously too, Michael Mayer. If Bowers can't go, if you want to roll the dice like that, Tyler Conklin should be available. Will Dissly. So for the purposes of this exercise, yes. It's going to be Kincaid, but there are some other options out there just in case Goddard is able to go. And by the way, if he practices tomorrow, I feel pretty good about him playing this week as well. It is a 3rd and 7 for the Commanders. They are just short after a pass from Jaden Daniels to Austin Eckler. There is a flag on the play. I believe it's on Washington. Yes, illegal use of hands, 10-yard penalty. And then Jalen Lane catches a 2-yard pass on 3rd down, 4th and 15 for the Commanders at their own 30. Back to the tight end conversation. Young versus old. Would you be playing Colston Loveland this week, Tyler? Would you be playing him against the Detroit Lions? Or would you be playing Jonnu Smith, who is at home against the Seattle Seahawks?
I'm probably taking Jonnu Smith here. They're both competing with tight ends on their own team, which is not the greatest. We did see Jonnu Smith get 5 targets in week 1. They went for like 15 yards, but he did get that touchdown. We've seen that Arthur Smith loves to incorporate Jonnu Smith around the goal line and his previous stops with the other Smith. So I think probably Jonnu Smith. This is also a scenario where I wouldn't love to be playing either of them, but in FFPC scoring, it's a little bit of a different story. I'd probably go with Jonnu here. Not for like season long. I'd rather have Colston Loveland again in the back half of the year, but as it stands, I think I'd rather just have Jonnu.
Yeah, Loveland is the type of player that I think is going to, I mean, like a lot of rookies do, that they come on at the end of the year, but I'm
Right.
definitely breaking ties against rookie wide receivers, rookie pass catchers in weeks 1, 2, basically through mid-October. And then I think that's when we usually see that little crescendo come up for some of these rookies where the game slows down, the light turns on, and then they start making more and more plays.
They get the bye week.
Exactly.
They get a week off from the whirlwind of being a professional. Not that college is that much different now, but
or maybe not even the week off, but just an extra week to prepare too.
Yeah,
where they're just getting more in the flow of everything. Last tight end one, Cade Otton, Jatavian Sanders. Just mentioned both of these guys. Otton didn't do much last week. Egbuka was obviously the hero in that game, and then Jatavian Sanders is the other option here. And I'll just let you know this: Monday night. That total on that Buccaneers Texans game is down to 42.5. So not great. And then Cade Otton that was the Buccaneers, Jatavian Sanders 44.5, and they are 6.5-point underdogs in Arizona. That I know, counselor, that's a leading question, but I'll let you just answer it whichever way you want.
So Sanders, we're going to guess, is getting more dropbacks. Cade Otton is still on the field all the freaking time, though. It's so wild. Just a production versus the actual raw snaps or raw routes for Cade Otton in almost every week is wild. I still think I might go Otton here, though. I mean, he's third on the team in routes.
Yeah, I can't.
That's totally fine.
All right, listen, it's close. It's close for me. But and maybe this is recency bias in my head too, where I'm thinking like, okay, well, Otton didn't do anything last week. It's hard for me to visualize him doing something against Houston this week. I could be wrong on this, but you are right. I mean, this is the Romeo Dobbs theory, right? If you're out there all the time
field
running all these routes, something's going to happen that's going to be good for him eventually, I would imagine. So I don't know. So you say Otton, I say Sanders on that. That wraps up
it's pretty gross either way.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. And this would obviously only FFPC players would be considering this, obviously, with the tight end premium scoring. Let's get to a more of a compelling conversation. We'll shift to the quarterbacks here to wrap things up tonight. Bo Nix, who is at Indianapolis, or Dak Prescott, who's at home against the Giants.
Probably leaning with Prescott here. They presumably will have plenty of time to run the ball in this game. Maybe. I mean, the Giants could put up a little bit of a fight. We'll see if this is Russell Wilson's last stand already, only 2 weeks into the season. I think I'd probably still rather have Dak. Bo Nix did not look very good. We kind of went over it earlier, particularly in that first half. He was kind of all over the place.
Despite the 17 passing plays in the first quarter.
Right. Yeah. He still threw the ball like 26 times in the first half, but it came to minus 6.5 EPA on dropbacks for one half is really terrible. Actually, I mean, they were on pace to be a losing team just because of how Bo Nix was playing football. Prescott should be dropping back plenty on most weeks. We'll see against the Giants, but yeah, I'm still taking Prescott here.
Yeah, I lean towards Prescott as well. I was a heavy believer on Prescott in drafting season because of the lack of what I thought was a lack of quality running backs in Dallas. Javonte Williams
right.
saying, and maybe not. And then you had CeeDee Lamb and Pickens, and Ferguson was another guy that I was really into. And that's still fresh in my mind. They had the sort of like the quote unquote mini bye to prepare for this as well. So I'm going to lean Prescott over Bo Nix. It is a Matthew Golden end around for 6 yards, a Jordan Love sack for -10, and now another Chris Brooks catch for 10 yards that has Green Bay punting on 4th and 4 from their own 30. We're coming up on the end of the first quarter. There's just 40 seconds to go. JJ McCarthy or Caleb Williams, they just battled each other on Monday Night Football this past week. Which one are you rolling with this week as we head into week 2, the week 2 matchups for these two players? McCarthy at home against the Falcons, Caleb Williams at the Lions. And forgive me, I don't think we had this from a viewer earlier, but maybe we did. McCarthy or Caleb Williams here, Justin?
This one's rough, honestly. McCarthy looked much like Bo Nix, pretty bad in the first half, and that kind of leading all the way into the third quarter. It took him until the fourth quarter until he had his little I don't know why I'm demeaning him. He had a very impressive, heroic fourth quarter. He was using his legs a little bit. Obviously got into the end zone there. Caleb Williams has so many freaking pass catchers. Still worried about his offensive line, though. I think I touched on that kind of at the beginning. The run blocking wasn't great. Pass blocking still isn't great. They've been switching around the offensive line for a few seasons now. Bunch of new faces. Maybe they gel as things go on. They both have pretty positive matchups that could be kind of sneaky shootout scenarios. I'm probably going JJ McCarthy here. I'm still worried about the Falcons defense. They have a pretty pitiful pass rush still until we'll see if that improves over the course of this season, but that has been bad for years now as well.
The other thing I'll bring up, and I can't remember who I was talking to about this. Somebody who was plugged in to the Bears said that there are people around the Bears organization, or maybe it's beat writers, I'm not sure, that are 100% convinced at some point this season, Tyson Bagent will be making a start with Caleb Williams.
Didn't they just extend him?
Yes, Bagent they did. They just like 3 years. It was 3-year deal. And this is the arm wrestlers kid, right? That it's just
right.
Crazy that we're seeing this right now. And again, that's just hearsay. It's week 2. There's a lot of crazy stuff flying around.
Right.
But that'd be wild if we saw Ben Johnson making the move to bench Caleb Williams in favor of Tyson Bagent.
It would be if he benches Caleb Williams before he benches DeAndre Swift, I would.
Oh my God!
I would lose my mind.
Where's the betting odds on that?
Right, exactly.
Somebody's got to have. What book has that? I want some of that action for sure. We talked about CJ Stroud earlier, Justin. Michael Penix and he are the last choices that we'll bring up with tonight. Penix in Minnesota to take on the Vikings. CJ Stroud battling the Buccaneers at home on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, another 2 games that could be like little sneaky shootout scenarios. I think this is kind of close to a coin flip as well. Penix, he used his legs a little bit. He found the end zone. I don't remember him getting even a rushing touchdown last year, so this might have been quite fluky. It's just kind of the offensive line issues again. I'm really worried about the Texans. They are my 32nd ranked offensive line right now. We'll see how things gel together here. I lean Penix, but again, not with a ton of conviction here.
I know you're an offensive line savant. Did you find yourself breaking ties during drafting season against teams with poor offensive lines? Can you remember a time where, you're thinking about 2 different quarterbacks when you're on the clock, or 2 different running backs when you're on the clock, and you're like, well, there's no way I can take this guy over this guy based on his offensive line?
Usually what I'm doing is breaking ties. That's what I use for, is breaking ties. If it's typically running backs, honestly. Quarterbacks, I feel like, can kind of overcome offensive line issues. Good quarterbacks and bad quarterbacks are, more susceptible to getting crushed by their bad offensive lines. But usually it's more of a tiebreaker, and probably 75% of those are running backs. And if it's just 2 guys I'm thinking about, and one has an offensive line unit that I think is a top 10 unit, and the other guy has a bottom 10, I'll just lean towards the top 10 guy. It's not usually like this offensive line is ranked 6th, so I've got to attack everyone associated with, the Chargers or whatever, but it's more of a tiebreaker.
Can you
just a data point?
Yeah. It was there. You said Houston was the worst, right? You had Houston. Okay. Who are the 2 teams next to it? Your bottom 3 besides the Texans this year?
Cincinnati and
Cincinnati. Wow.
New York. The Giants, not
Giants. Okay, all right, yeah, that's and the Dolphins had to be down there too, quite a bit, right?
Yeah, they're bottom 5.
Okay.
Teron Armstead retiring in like the middle of the summer didn't help their chances.
No. And I know they drafted a guard who was starting right away, but I mean it's one guy. There's 5 guys.
Jonah, whose name I always mess up, so I'm just going to leave it Jonah.
Okay,
Jonah, the new
all right.
guard.
We'll leave it at that, I guess. I'm looking it up right now just to see if I can find it. And I cannot. So we will listen. Why don't we do this? Oh my God, Jonas Savanaya. I don't know.
Yes. Yes.
Savianaya is what it is. Savianaya. You will not go to @Justin_Redwords on X for pronunciations of offensive linemen. You will go there to find is all your work on Pro Football Focus, everything on 4 for 4. For anybody who's wanting to consume more of your content after watching you tonight, Justin, is that the best place to go? Is your X, or where can people also check out your work?
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel. It's just shorts only, like bite-sized 60-second fantasy football advice with my buddy Stefanel. It's at Ask Us FF or Ask Us Fantasy Football, which is just nothing but like 1 or 2 shorts a week at this point. We busted out like 80 something shorts over the summer just based on positional rankings and rookies to target and whatever. And then everything else is just on X at Justin_Redwards. Everything else will be over there.
That is where to go. That is where to check it out. You are doing great work. Keep up all the great work for this as well, Justin. So much fun to have you on the show tonight. We'll definitely have to have you back on again soon. Enjoy the rest of the game tonight. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thanks, man.
I want to remind everybody that the FFPC Weekly Challenge, the Thursday Weekly Challenge, no longer open, but we have the Sunday Weekly Challenge closing in at 1 o'clock. No draft, no salary cap. Pick your 10 players, win up to $2,500, 10, 30, and 100-team contests, only 1 player per NFL team. We will be back at 7 p.m. next Thursday for the Dolphins and Bills. We'll get you set for that and take you through that. The Commanders have it after a 1-yard scramble from Jaden Daniels, 2nd and 9 from Green Bay's 43. Could be seeing a touchdown here. We'll let you enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching FFPC Insider Access on the Better Sports Network. For Justin Edwards and our producer, Matt Deutsch, I'm Eric Balkman. Talk with you next week.